Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Insights from the Couch with my ever faithful Dr. Ana Maria Ryan, owner of Seven Counseling. My name is Lily Smith, owner of The Traveling Therapist, and today we're going to be closing our series on narcissists for now with covert narcissists. And we're going to start with a little bit of description of the subtypes of narcissists and kind of what is broken down from what is considered a narcissistic personality disorder into the other categories of narcissism. And Dr. Ana Maria is going to actually walk us right into that. And then we're going to go into our focus for today, which is covert type narcissism. Go ahead, Dr. Ana Maria. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks again for having me. Always such a pleasure doing this with you. So yeah, I feel like narcissistic personality or narcissists are a super hot topic. And since we like to touch on hot topics, this was a good thing to go over. So today we're going to be talking about the different kinds of personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. However, you said that we were going to focus on covert, and we're going to do that, but I wanted to touch on the subdivisions, if you may say, of narcissism. However, I just want to say something else too. There is a diagnosis, guys, like a mental health diagnosis that us clinicians used, and it is a personality disorder. It's called narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, period. There is nothing else beyond that in terms of diagnosis. And you're looking for things like grandiosity. So people that need a lot of admiration and they think that they are the greatest thing since sliced bread, and lack of empathy, pretty much. But anyway, in society, because we're noticing so much that narcissism is a big problem, I guess a lot of people are studying it, right? And that's how these subdivisions came to be. So a few guys that I can't remember the names right now, guys, I'm sorry, but like you certainly feel free to Google the names of the guys that came up with these subdivisions. But we have, for example, the grandiose narcissist, and that person is really seeking power and admiration. It can be considered overt, and they have a super huge fear of being inferior to other people. Then we have the vulnerable narcissist who is looking for protection, and they're driven by shame. That can be considered covert. So we will go into that in a second.
Mhm.
They definitely are afraid of being rejected. They want people to like them and embrace them. There is the communal narcissist, and they love being seen as good. That's their objective, is to be perceived as the saviors of the world, Superman, if you will. It can be overt or covert, and they need, I guess, to feel better than other people morally, like they're
Morally,
superior
yeah.
than other people. Yeah.
Mhm.
We have the malignant narcissist, which, in my opinion, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like it's the most dangerous one, or the one that does the most damage, in my opinion. But again, you can agree or disagree. They want to control and dominate,
Yeah.
and they definitely are overt. They are afraid of weakness or being seen or perceived as weak. So I want to say, I want to stop right here. I feel like in a lot of relationships, that's what you're going to be seeing, the malignant behavior, because they're seeking control and domination over the partner. But that's just an observation. We have the somatic narcissist. They are focused on body and appearance. They are overt, and they just don't want to feel unwanted. So I guess those are the people that are obsessed with their looks and their bodies, their physical beings.
Yeah.
The cerebral narcissist is the opposite of that, and they are absolutely obsessed with intellect and knowledge. They are also overt, and they don't want to feel inferior intellectually or insignificant, like they don't matter. And I do want to say that the spiritual narcissist, I guess I was talking to you about this before we started the podcast. I didn't realize that this even was a thing a while back, and I'm just like, wait a minute. Oh, okay, well, there's a spiritual narcissist that is seeking enlightenment, but they do it for status. So those are your gurus, your people that they want to tell you how to live your life spiritually. They seem very connected, but in all reality, they are just very much afraid of failure. So
Mhm.
you're gonna hear them say things like, "Oh, you're not at the same vibe. You're not at my level. Like you're not there yet." And then that's it. I don't know if you want to add anything to what I said, but basically, that was a short description of the types of narcissists.
I think I'm gonna add one more thing for clarification purposes. And that is, most people, I would say the majority of us, have narcissistic traits. However, it does not mean that have narcissistic personality disorder. There is a significant difference between a disorder and a trait. And when we're categorizing a person with a disorder, we typically would look at somebody whose daily life is affected by their behaviors, their symptoms, and it kind of rules their lives. It rules their identity and how they see themselves, and it rules their relationships. So because it's such a primary aspect of who they are as a person, then it becomes a personality disorder because it's disruptive to their daily life, it's disruptive to who they are, et cetera, et cetera. So please note that a lot of people might think, man, well, I could be a narcissist because I really, really appreciate intellectualism and I consider myself a really intelligent person. Am I narcissistic? Am I a narcissist? Well, you may be an intellectual, you may be a very intelligent person, you might be a professor or a researcher or something like that, and you might have some of the aspects of a narcissist in the fact that you might think that you're superior intellectually to another person who maybe doesn't have the same schooling. That does not make you somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder. That's a very different thing. You might be thinking, well, I'm smarter than the average person. That might just be a fact. And it may sound selfish, but it is just a fact. You might be, in fact, smarter than someone else.
My
So
rule of thumb, Jalili, clinically for what you just said, is when someone can actually has the capacity to ask themselves, "Am I a narcissist?" Then you're not, because that right there is the whole
it's
thing
usually
about
a good thing.
narcissism.
Yeah.
So if you're questioning whether you're a narcissist or not, then most likely you're not clinically. That's what I'm thinking. But thank you for clarifying that this is not the fact that we have traits doesn't make us full blown have a narcissistic personality disorder. I want to say real quick that socially men are allowed to have some behaviors that may be perceived as narcissistic, and they check some boxes, but
Yeah.
that I think that's more cultural and social than actually a personality disorder. So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. And I think we talked a little bit more in depth about that in the first podcast about narcissism, but I always like to go back to that because I know that it's such a scary label, and for those people who have a little bit of a self-conscious mindset, or the person that is um just very conscious of themselves, they might be like, oh my gosh, is that me? Because sometimes we tend to label ourselves accidentally. So I do like to just preface that. Okay, so moving on to the covert narcissist. The covert narcissists, just like how you were describing, Dr. Ana Maria, tend to be they tend to be seekers of pseudo parents. They're looking for the mother figure, they're looking for the father figure, they're looking for somebody whose resources they can exploit for their own purposes of feeling cared for, taken care of, loved, attended to, wanted, etc., etc. And so, in my observation, males who will present themselves as very charming, sweet. They're the sweet guy that is always very available to you, very emotionally available to you. At the beginning, they are always up, like, to be there for you. They want to be your friend. They want to be just this, they're the good guy. That's how they'll initially present. Usually they're fairly stable when you first meet them, and then over time, they will start maximizing how much they take from your resources. It starts with your time and your attention. They want you to be available to them at all times. They want to be able to call you and you answer. If you don't answer, then you don't love them. They want you to be available to them emotionally. If they want to talk to you about their feelings at 4 o'clock in the morning after you've had a 13-hour shift. That's irrelevant. The 13 hours mean nothing. You need to be available at 4 o'clock in the morning. If you're not, then you don't love them. Then you're not considerate. Then you're not thoughtful. Then you're not a good partner. And then they're the victims and you become the narcissist in their eyes because you're selfish, because you don't think about the fact that they had needs and you didn't meet the needs. Go ahead, Doctor.
No, I was gonna say that the overt narcissist is probably more of a predator. I'm sorry for saying it that way, but that's the way I perceive them. And the covert is not. The covert is more a victim, and so sometimes it's easier to spot an overt narcissist because they're very grandiose, like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. But with the covert, it's not because they can be vulnerable and sensitive, and so sometimes they can be insecure, and that's why some people don't realize that there is narcissism going on there because they're sensitive, so it kind of like doesn't fit the profile of textbook narcissism, grandiose and
That's
predatory.
I agree with that, but I would have to argue that they are predatory in a different way.
Oh, for
They're
sure.
they're predatory in the way that moss is a predator to a tree, or in the right, or in the way
Yep.
that, and that's the covert nature of it, or in the way that, um how do you call those little creatures that attach themselves to turtles that then like suck the
Leeches? No, I don't
no,
know.
they're like little mussels, and
Oh.
they'll like attach themselves all over the turtle and even in their eyes and everything, and they literally start eating the creature,
Oh,
the
no.
turtle, and it's really sad. But like that's a form of predatory behavior that
Absolutely.
does not present as the way a shark, for example, to a fish,
Yeah, this
or
is more like a parasite.
it's
Sorry.
more a parasitic, absolutely, that's exactly the word. It's a parasitic type of relationship that they're seeking rather than control, power and control. It's more of a parasitic type of relationship. So
Mhm.
you will inevitably, what you're gonna notice when you are with a covert narcissist is that inevitably you're gonna start to feel drained. You're going to start to feel a slow, steady draining of your very being, your energy, your time, your attention, your resources, because most of the time the covert narcissist will find a reason to quit their job. Because if you have a good job and you're available to them, they'll find a reason. They'll start like letting go of their job. They'll start letting go of their house. You'll find that covert narcissists are just as quick to move in has overt narcissists. They'll move into your house right away. They'll find reasons for you to take care of them, and the more you make yourself available to them, whether it's financially, emotionally, the more they want. The more and then it gets to the point where it becomes demanding. Then it gets to the point where they become upset if you're not readily giving them everything that they need.
And I think the tools that they use to be very subtle with the control is a lot of guilt and
Mhm.
playing victim. But
And
because they're
gaslighting.
seemingly nice people and sensitive people, then you feel bad because, oh my God, like that person is always there for me. They listen to me. They're so sensitive. Like, how can they be? I need to be there for them. So if you
Mhm.
find yourselves, and this is, I'm sorry for saying this, but this is not only for narcissistic personality disorder. I think I want to say this across the board. If you feel like your relationship with a person, whether that's a partner, a friendship, professional relationship, is driven by guilt, something's wrong there because
Mhm.
guilt is not a good thing. Guilt is
Mhm.
good to recognize we've done something wrong, period. That's it. But beyond that, you shouldn't behave driven by guilt. So the covert narcissist is going to be like playing the victim, making you feel like crap so that you do what they need you to do. And another thing is that they don't look charming. Oftentimes I think a lot of introverts can be covert narcissists because they don't like the attention, they don't like the shining lights. And so if you're looking for that aspect of narcissism, the shining light, the that person is charming, it's not going to be there for the covert, like definitely.
Something else that I have noticed is the covert narcissist. they wear a mask with the person that they're with that is not present in other areas of their lives. So, for example, you might find a covert narcissist wearing this mask of victimization and of I am so sad, I'm depressed, I'm sick, or I'm I'm very isolated, I'm very sad. Like you'll find that, like, the bleeding heart, you'll find that person when it's you and him, when it's the two of you. But then let's say that you happen to walk in on him talking to a friend, a guy friend or a girlfriend, it doesn't matter, talking to a friend or doing something that he finds enjoyment in. It's a completely different person that you're going to walk into.
Mhm.
He's gonna
Mhm.
be a lot more, he's gonna be contented, he's gonna be, like, excited, he's gonna be acting normally. But then if goodness forbid that you confront that he only acts that way with you, or that he treats you differently, if you confront that, then it's, "Well, I only act happy in front of those people because they don't know me, or because they don't know me like you do, or because they're not really my friends, only you are, because they're not going to understand, only you can."
Okay.
So they'll immediately start to like flip it back to, no, really, the person that I am is the victim. This person that was having a blast playing video games, or that was having a good time playing sports or whatever, well, is not really me. The me is the one that you need to take care of. That's the real me. So they'll try to like manipulate you when you see the other side of the coin. And
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jalili, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to say that sometimes the covert narcissism can be confused with other things that are comorbid, like depression or anxiety or mood disorders like that. But that doesn't happen so often with the overt narcissist. So just wanted to mention that because sometimes you may go like, oh, this person, he's got depression or she's got depression or they have anxiety, and maybe that's what's going on with them. Just be aware that that's a comorbidity. So basically, it means that it exists along with the personality disorder, two completely different things right there. But you're not expecting that from your typical narcissist. Depression or anxiety is, anyway, sorry.
I actually have a story on this. I remember being at hospice a few years ago, working there, and one of my patients had been, um, essentially, when you're in hospice, you have already been diagnosed and you're in the end stages of your life. But this particular person had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and was coming to the end stage of her life. And I remember there was a woman who had become almost like the guardian of this lady, or I should say, my patient, of this patient. And I remember going up to her and talking to her and saying, I'm very sorry, but I think she needs to stay at the hospice house because she has a few days left to live, and we've exhausted everything that we can do at this point. I think it's best for her to just prepare for the end. And this lady turned around and she looked just shocked, and I'm like, of course, that's grief in her face. It wasn't grief. She turned around and she said, "But who's going to take me to my appointments?"
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
And this is the person, and this is another aspect of the covert narcissist. This is the person that was supposedly the support system of my patient, who was a cancer patient. That's another aspect of the covert narcissist, is the I am the subservient servant.
Yeah.
But I make sure every step of the way you know exactly what I'm doing for you. You know exactly what I like how you should be so ever grateful for me, and how such a bleeding heart, and I'm such the best person that's ever lived because I am the subservient servant. And all along the way, they're also getting something out of that as well.
Mm. Wow. That really left me speechless, I should say. And it's not surprising because we're talking about narcissism, and in the end, it's all about them. So that's the thing that you got to be aware of, is that no one else exists in this person's world but themselves. and it is all driven by just, I guess, holes within self-esteem and self-value, whether they're grandiose or they're vulnerable, like coverts. But wow, okay, so who's gonna take me to my appointment?
Who's gonna take you to our appointments?
I'm curious to know what you said about that.
I looked at her and I said, "Well, you're gonna have to figure it out." Like,
Ah,
at that point, I mean, what are you supposed to
you were
tell
done.
her?
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
I was so done.
Like
I
I
was so
said, you're telling the story and I'm speechless, and I'm like, I wonder what she said because I would have been like, okay, I don't know what to
I
tell you.
mean, the person that she was supposedly taking care of literally had stopped eating. She had stopped drinking. I can't imagine what this narcissist, or we're not going to diagnose her because I didn't formerly have her as a patient, but I can't imagine what this individual must have been doing with my patient the entire time
Wow,
that she labeled has guardianship, for her to feel absolutely no remorse whatsoever, or grief or sadness, other than just purely the what about me. And that's the thing with the covert narcissist that you're going to find is the what about me. But what about
right,
me? That is
right.
the key. Anytime you want to find a covert narcissist, like look for the what about me question.
Yes, because they oftentimes feel unappreciated or misunderstood. So the world is unfair to them, and that is a good question. Actually, what about me? That's a good one to have in mind.
Yeah, the other aspect of covert narcissism is they are never at fault. Never, ever, ever under any circumstance. Now, they they will pander their lack of action, and they will pander their lack of initiative and actual self-sufficiency onto other people. So it's like, well, my friend forced me to do this, or I didn't want to do it but my mother forced me to, or I would have never done this career, I hate this career and that's why I have to quit because it's stressed me out, my mental health is just not there, I can't handle it, and I never would have done it if it wasn't for my mother, or if it wasn't for my ex-wife, or if it
And
wasn't
thank
for
you. That is the person that is going to be bashing the ex for sure. And it's all the ex's fault. Like, there's nothing that they did wrong. It was all the ex.
Right. So zero accountability for, so they'll quit a job and it's not their fault, is someone else's fault. They will stop going to school, or they'll fail at something and it's not the ex's fault, and it's not their fault, it's the ex's fault, or it's the friend's fault, or whoever.
Mhm.
It's never their fault. There's zero accountability. And that's pretty classic for a narcissist, but
Yeah, I wanted to say that with the overt narcissist, there's little empathy, no empathy actually, but it is because it comes from a place of lack of understanding about where you're coming from. Let's say that you're going through something, a hardship, and you're talking to an overt, and the person may say something like, okay, and like, you still can do it, or you still, things are going to get better for you. What are you talking about? This is nothing. That would be your typical overt narcissist. But the covert can relate to you a little bit, but through their own experience. So you go to that person and you tell them, "Oh, you know what happened? This is what happened to me. It's horrible. I feel terrible." Blah blah blah. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I think I understand what you're saying because when I went through," so it's about them. And then you may feel like they're being empathetic because they're telling you something, but it's about them.
that's probably the biggest trick that they pull, is giving you the perception of empathy when in fact they're just mirroring and finding, it's actually just a really great opportunity for them to find
To
yet one
shine.
thing that
Hmm. Hmm.
that they can use for their advantage. So a lot of people think, oh, but this person, they're such a good listener. They're not a good, it's not that they're a good listener, it's that they're picking up
They're
things.
acquiring ammunition against you.
Yes, pretty much, pretty much. Okay. Um, what else? Some final touches. I think, you might feel sorry for a covert narcissist That's probably one of the biggest thing is feeling sorry for them. They weaponize empathy like it's nobody's business. And but the problem is that, again, much like the moss eating the tree silently, destroying it from the inside out, what you will find is that your empathy will get you to the point where you will feel hollow inside. You'll feel empty inside because
Mhm.
the narcissist cannot give you anything. They can only take from you. They can give you the perception that there's some sort of a um how would you say, like, equal reciprocity, equal give and take. They might give you the perception, but the
Yeah.
fact, no matter how much you try to find that they're giving you something, all you can find is just kind of emptiness and hollowness. And so be very mindful that um you're going to feel really, really sad, really, really bad about leaving this person, about quitting this relationship.
Guilty.
You're gonna feel super guilty. They might even threaten to harm themselves. They might threaten to commit suicide. Um, so to that level, because final touch, let's talk about what happens when you try to leave the relationship. The malignancy comes out in a whole nother level because now psychological manipulation gets ramped up to 1,000. So for a short period of time, they're going to be excessively manipulative. They might even lie about being sick. They might lie about a mental illness. They might lie about being suicidal. They will use any equipment anything that they've learned about you, any of your hot topics, any of your hot buttons. They're going to use that to manipulate you into staying in the relationship. Then when they no longer, like, when you start stonewalling, which is the thing that you should do, when you leave the relationship, sever the tie, and you start stonewalling, so no answering the phone anymore, no texting anymore, no giving into the manipulation, no texting back, no trying to uh how would you say, no trying to explain yourself anymore or reason with them. Once you stop doing all those things, then you're going to find that magically within a week, 2 weeks, they're right back there with somebody else. All of a sudden, now they're with somebody else. The fact of the matter is, the majority of the time, the covert narcissist was actually talking to people online, and they were actually talking to people the entire time. They were
They have more
still
options.
they were
Sure.
the narcissists are never, ever, ever stop looking for options. They never stop. So
Mm.
you'll find that, oh, this, oh, I'm gonna break their heart. They're never gonna get over this, and they're gonna be like dying in their bed. No, no, they're gonna go find their next resource to tap into if they don't already have one. They might have been cheating on you the entirety of this relationship where they had all
Mm.
these illnesses and the depression and this and that. Oh my gosh, I can't even get out of bed. Yeah, but then you left the house and they were talking to people on freaking the internet. And you didn't even realize it because they were such a good guy. They're such a good guy the whole
Yeah.
time. You never would have thought so. So in the end, believe it or not, when you do start to detach yourself, there's a battle for your soul, essentially. Um, and then after that, when they realize the truth that you're done, then they detach with the same lack of love and affection as any other narcissist has the ability to detach, where you're just, okay, well, I'll stick, once in a while, you'll get a text from them. Oh, I cried today and I thought of you, or something like that. And at the same time, you'll find them on Instagram taking pictures with their current girlfriend.
Uh, so sad. I was gonna say, I think that we would save ourselves a lot of heartache and pain if we listen more to our intuition. I think that God, and I'm gonna say God, me, but you can call it whatever in whatever way you understand it, people that are listening. But I said God has given us this equipment that is natural to sense and to know what feels right and what doesn't. We all have this energy meter. And like you said, if you're noticing that your energy is depleted when you hang out with someone, as sad as that is, maybe that's not the person to hang out with, or that's not the person to choose to have a relationship with. We cannot rationalize our instinct, but our instinct is always right. So
Mhm.
if you're getting to know someone, whether that's a friend, that is a colleague, that is a partner, and you start feeling your spidey senses are acting, listen to that because it's easier to do it now than
Mhm.
try to get out of it later.
Yeah, a lot of people ask, how was I supposed to know? Well, you are going to get, you're going to see the red flags. You're going to get the instinctual pull of get away from this person. If you have spent most of your lives jumping from one traumatic relationship or one toxic relationship to another, unfortunately, you may have stopped listening to your instincts a long time ago, and they might not appear as openly out there and as clear and concise as someone who does trust their instincts on a regular basis. But know that if you quiet your mind for a second and stop arguing with them, if you stop telling yourself but, and you just quiet your mind and say what if instead, you will find that your gut is never wrong, and that if you trust it, it will not lead you astray.
And the reality too, Jalil, is that people will tell you, like they will let you know with their behavior. So I think it's really difficult to break away when the dopamine and
Mhm.
the good chemicals are pumping in when we're in love or when we start liking someone. It is very difficult to pull away from them. So that's why I'm saying, guys, girls, do yourselves a favor. People that are non-binary, do yourselves a favor and please listen to your instinct and realize that the person is telling you who they are. Before you're hooked, they're gonna let you know. So just pay attention.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so to wrap it up, this obviously the covert narcissist is not nearly as sexy to talk about
No.
as the overt narcissist, but but I will say that it's a surprisingly common thing to find these types of individuals, and we do need to be aware of it when we enter into relationships because unfortunately it's the quiet emotional killer and it is a type of abuse. It is still a type of narcissistic abuse. It may not be as overt, it may not be as talked about, but it's still abuse. And when you're done, you are left so broken. And you never even realize that you were broken until you try to go into a healthy relationship and you see how much of yourself has changed and how much you feel like you need to protect yourself and how much you feel like you're on the defensive and how much you feel like you're just so detached from the relationship that you're trying to enter into because you literally have been drained. You've been drained.
I was going to say, please, just a final thought. Don't blame yourself if you have been a survivor or a victim of this type of relationship in whatever respect that is, friendship, coworker, partner, because it's easier to spot a wolf amongst the wolves than it is to spot a wolf with sheep's clothing within the sheep.
Yes. And know that if you just had a relationship or you've had relationships with the abusive, like overt type of narcissist, like a malignant narcissist, for example, if you've had a relationship in the past or have had multiple relationships with them, even then you're actually still really likely to jump into a covert narcissistic relationship. Because you're like, I'm looking for the complete opposite of that a-hole who thinks he walks on water and blah blah blah. I'm gonna go for the nice guy. And then boop, there you there it is. Right into like from the frying pan to the fire. So So know that that is something that's common and it can happen. And again, it's still not your fault. You know, yes, you're responsible for your actions. Yes, you're responsible for paying attention to the people that you choose, but it's still not your fault. Yes, you are responsible, but it's not your fault. It's not your fault that he was a narcissist. It's not your fault that you were abused. No, you did not cause the abuse. It was simply your responsibility to pay attention to the red flags. Maybe you didn't, and you ended up getting caught in the situation. Well, now it's time to dust off. Go find a therapist that's going to teach you how to look for those red flags and how to work on the trauma that's left behind, and you'll be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And as always, we're here. uh Tune in, listen in. We have some advice. We try to help people as much as we can. Look for our for seven counseling, the traveling therapist, and other therapists in your area that may have experience working with people who have suffered from narcissistic abuse. And we hope you have a wonderful day.
Cheerio.
Bye.